Guys, I'm really happy to welcome to the podcast Kyle Rittenhouse. You all remember Kyle Rittenhouse. He doesn't really need an introduction, but I will say that he is from Antioch, Illinois. He was a minor when he was involved in the case involving Anthony Hoover and Joseph Rosenbaum. This, of course, had to do with the Black Lives Matter riot in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I do want to emphasize Kyle was acquitted on all charges. Kyle, welcome to the podcast. You have been through a ordeal that very few young people your age have had to endure. I mean, the very idea of being charged with murder, the idea of facing really your life being destroyed, your whole life in prison. How are you doing now? I mean, have you had a little bit of time to sort of digest and recover from what would seem to me the PTSD that would inevitably accompany something like this?
Well, Dinesh, thank you for having me. And it's been a little bit rough. I've been just trying to hang out with my dog as much as possible. I started college at ASU yesterday. So I've been studying, working with my dog, and trying to stay as busy as possible. I'm starting to go to church on Sundays and just hang out.
Let's talk a little bit about that life. Are you able to have something resembling a normal life? You say you're at ASU. Are you doing online or are you actually going into class?
I'm doing it through the computer.
Okay. And are you finding that you're able to have a semblance of normalcy, or is your life even now something that is in the twilight zone?
It's still a little crazy. Like, I'm worried to go to stores still because I can feel people's eyes just looking at me, and I don't know if they have a perceived notion of who I am or if they're going to like attack me. So I'm a little scared to go out still because of the false media narratives, which made these people believe that I'm this bad person.
Yeah, I'd like people to get to know you a little bit, Kyle. So talk a little bit about, you grew up in Antioch. I obviously saw your testimony at the trial, but talk a little bit about how you grew up, and where and what your family was like. And then we'll get to sort of why you went to Kenosha. But let's start with just your memories of your childhood.
I grew up in a small town in Antioch, Illinois, hanging out with friends. And then when I was 15, I dropped out of high school to help my mom. I was working 3 jobs, 2 as a lifeguard, 1 as a landscaper, just to help put food on the table. And I was, in my free time, I'd go to the beach, hang out with friends, go to car meets, if I wasn't working, and just to try to help. I was a police explorer, a fire cadet, and I wanted a career helping people.
Wow, Kyle. I mean, you're an all-American kid doing what you can to help your family. Now, let's fast forward a little bit to the events in Kenosha. What would make you, a teenage kid who's in Antioch, Illinois? Now, you have some family in Kenosha, I understand. What made you want to go there in the first place?
I got a text from a buddy who asked if I could help protect this business because the owners have asked him. And I said, yeah, sure, I can help. I'll bring my first aid kit. I'll help with medical, and I'll help put out fires. So I went down there to help with first aid and put out fires.
But you knew it would be a little bit dangerous because obviously you did take a weapon. And so were you fully clued into the sort of politically charged atmosphere that was going on in the United States? I mean, not just in Wisconsin, but really across the country in the wake of the whole Black Lives Matter movement. Were you sort of aware of all that, or were you a little bit naive and sort of walked into it?
I knew a little bit about what was going on with all the riots, but it wasn't part of my realm. I didn't pay attention to that. I was focused on work and hanging out with friends, doing normal 17-year-old stuff, not focus on what's in the media.
I mean, Kyle, what's interesting about this, it seems to me, is that, I think a lot of people thought of you as some kind of a political activist. And of course, later there were false attempts to portray you as a white supremacist. But I think people would be a little surprised to realize that you don't seem to me to even be all that political, if at all.
No, Dinesh, I'm not a political person. When I was 17, I couldn't even vote. All I cared about was what type of garbage trucks were going to be driving down the road that day so I could take a video of them.
Wow. Okay. So you go to Kenosha. I mean, had you even heard of Antifa? It seems like you had heard of Black Lives Matter, but did you know who those guys were and what they sort of do?
No, I didn't know about Antifa until after my incident.
Okay. So you go to Kenosha. I mean, one of the things I found amazing about, I didn't watch the whole trial, but I watched parts of it. I mean, I saw a detective basically say, oh, those guys weren't running after Kyle Rittenhouse. They were merely running in the same direction. And I thought to myself, wow, isn't it true, Kyle, as we think back about your case, that you were really saved by the video? And what I mean by that was, if there wasn't video evidence, let's say, we were 20 years from now, 20 years earlier, and there wasn't the video where the jury could see for themselves what happened. I mean, I fear that if that were the case, you might be locked up today.
Absolutely. If it wasn't for all the independent journalists who captured this high definition video, I'd be in prison right now. It would be my word against the mob's word, essentially.
And it must have been, I mean, I feel this as an adult in a lesser degree, but as a teenage kid, to feel the venom of the media and the way in which narratives get constructed, I mean, I've just got to say it's a little impressive that it hasn't broken you, because it seems to me that you're still psychologically, emotionally intact. You've kind of come through this, but it must have been quite something to live through.
It was definitely difficult to have to see what the media was saying, calling me a white supremacist, a murderer, saying my mom drove me there, saying I crossed state lines with a gun, just lying about me. It was really difficult. And what really helped me get through this was the number of support I had and the praying to God. That's what helped me get through each day.
Would you say that the process has made you a little bit more religious because you found a source of strength in faith and in God?
I would say that it's definitely helped. It helped grow my connection with the Lord, knowing I can rely on Him no matter what.
Okay, let's take a pause. When we come back, we'll talk some more about all this and also about his life now with Kyle Rittenhouse.